let's give Bob the floor.
On Bob Love. Okay, let's
Yeah.
do that. Bob Love, and I've heard one of the many joys of doing a show with Bob Ryan is I get to hear him talk about all the teams that I grew up watching when I was like 10 years old in Rumford, Maine. Uh, and the Bulls were one of them. And Bob Love was always one of those guys that played the Celtics and just could never get over the top. But he passed away, Bob, at 81.
Bob Love was a 6'8" forward who, in the category of all-time players, he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he's in the next level. He's the Hall of Very Good, right at the top of the list of the Hall of Very Good. And maybe he was underrated. Maybe I'm wrong. But let me just say, he had a 6-year run from 1969-70 to 74-75 of 20 points plus a game for 6 years in a row. I wonder how many guys in the league. Be interesting to find out how many guys in the history of the league could say that, to have 6 straight years of 20 points a game or more, peaking with 26 in the 71-72. Those Bulls teams, he was the other forward was Chet Love. The guards were Sloan and Wayne Lear, and the center was Tom Boerwinkle. And they were a methodical team coached by Dick Motta that ran a methodical offense and tight defense, and they were miserable to play. You were going to be in for a grinding night every time you played them. Love was a wonderful scorer, mid-range shooter. Of course, nobody needed the three in those days. And he was very efficient. Then that offense centered around those forwards. Just for people to know, those Bulls teams, starting in 1970-71, they went 51-31. They lost to the Lakers in 7. The next year, they went 57-25. They lost to the Lakers in 4. The next year, they went 51-31. They lost to LA in 7 again. And the 7th game was a 3-point game, 95-92. So you can imagine how frustrated they're getting at this point. The next year, they're 54-28. They're swept by Milwaukee. The next year, they're 47-35, and they lose to Golden State in 7. Then game 7 was a 3-point game. You talk about knocking on the door.
Right.
They're like the Buffalo Bills. But they were a special group. I believe Dick Motta should be in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, Bob Love. Now, one thing I'll quickly, I didn't know when I was my first year covering, and I went into the locker room to talk to in the Bulls locker room to interview him. And I didn't know he was a colossal stutterer, and he was willing to try to work with you. But I was awkward. I was young. I was awkward. I was embarrassed that I had done this. I didn't. I should have. I wish I had known. I didn't know. Maybe you don't even want to bother Bob Love because he would. But he was a known major stutterer. And by the way, nickname Butterbean came from a childhood affinity for, as I said, for Butterbeans. But he should be remembered. It was a good guy, and he was a really efficient player. So R.I.P. Bob Love.